aggressive corruption. So beyond the physical aesthetics of the airports, they've improved. What are you doing about tackling what many call aggressive corruption in our airports?
Speaking to corruption, we probably have to understand airport and its working. We in civil aviation provide the platform,
Right.
the casing, if you like, where we are housing customs, immigration, NDLEA, and so many other agencies that operate within the airport to tackle corruption by custom personnel, for example, and to prosecute them, if any. We in civil aviation are doing our best, but we have a limitation to what we can do because we are not police. And it's not officers of aviation
Yes.
that are doing the custom work or doing the immigration work or doing the NDLEA work within the airport itself. That said, is our premises.
Yes.
We're doing the very best. One, whoever we found guilty of corruption will deter him from going to the airport, will seize his card, and ban him from being posted to our locations. This we have done, and we have named and shamed. And it's a continuous process. Now, speaking to airports, really, you see, you need to understand that our focus in aviation, and I'm very sorry to say this, it's not how very beautiful your airport is.
Yes.
The air conditioning, the travelators, the lifts, and so on and so forth. They are nice things to have. But our major focus as a focus area and our roadmap in Buhari administration is how very safe and secure you depart point A and land point B. And everything in between. These are things that you don't see.
Yes.
Passenger don't see. They don't care how the aircraft will fly out of Kaduna and land Bini. How does he find where Bini is?
Yes.
Those equipment are not what the passenger will see. If he's approaching to land into Enugu, the equipment that will show him this is Enugu, and this is the runway, and this is the center line of the runway, and this is the threshold of the runway, so that he does not land after the runway
Yes.
or on the side of the runway. These equipment, like the landing equipments, landing systems that we have in place, passengers don't see them. So the major focus of this government under Buhari is to tend to all those critical safety items, which we have been doing, and passengers don't see. So our energy is targeted at that. So, but we haven't abandoned them. I'm sure everybody knows now the airports have changed. And we're on our way to concessioning the airports so that they are put into private sector so they can do them very well. And this will happen by the grace of God this year.
Does the ministry have plans, towards training? I mean, are you involved in the training aspect of both pilots and everyone that is involved in that aviation sector?
The best safety is a well-trained aviator. In Zaria, when President Buhari came, or since his coming in 2015 till date, Zaria has become International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, Africa Center of Excellence. We have the highest number of trained instructors by ICAO in the entire world. We have the highest number of ICAO courses delivered by Zaria in the entire world. We have in Zaria put simulators, like 737 simulator is a $21 million equipment is installed in Zaria. We've installed the best fire and smoke simulator in Zaria, 5.2 billion. Before the coming of Buhari, firefighters
Yes.
go to Kamaru for training. And President Buhari said, no, it ought to be done in Nigeria. And he provided 5.2 billion, and we bought it and we put it in Zaria, and we do our training now. And it's the best in Africa. It's automatic. And everybody that comes to Zaria to do that. In Zaria, we bought and ordered for 20 training aircraft. So far, about 8 of them have been delivered. And this aircraft, they now use Jet A1, the normal aviation fuel. Before, they use an avgas, which is very difficult to find, very expensive, and makes the training more expensive. Now the training is half in cost. There's quite a number of things that we're doing in Zaria to upgrade training, to ensure that we've trained best pilots, best engineers, best cabin crew, best air traffic controllers, and so on and so forth. So training is a core area, and every single agency in aviation is focusing on training. We're doing training and retraining of our personnel. Some we do it locally in Nigeria. Even the foreign courses,
Yes.
we've devised a means that we will bring in the instructors to come in and train us in-house in Nigeria, so that more number of people will have opportunity to be trained.
Rather
As
than
against,
sending them out.
yeah, you send 10 out, they come back and then train the trainer. Now you have opportunity to train 100, and those hundreds now train the trainer. That area has completely changed,
From what it was before.
Yeah, from what it was before.
2015.
Exactly. They have an airport of their own. We're extending the runway at the moment. We have a radar simulator that we're putting there, brand new. We put an instrument landing system there, new. We put a radio equipment called VOR, very high frequency omnidirectional range, radio range equipment to show you where the area is. We put it. We put quite a number of things there in Zaria. And so we're doing training, and they're the best. And we have, in areas of safety, for example, in same Zaria, we procured an aircraft that is used to calibrate the equipment that you have at various airports to ensure they are working in the correct order and correct sense. So that if your equipment tells you this is the runway, it is actually the runway.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So there's an equipment that will show you the center line of the runway and the beginning of the runway. So you don't land after the runway or on the side. That equipment needs to be rigged to ensure that it's working well. So that rigging, that calibration to calibrate and make sure it's working well. We used to borrow an aircraft from Niger before Buhari comes
To do that.
to do it and pay people to come from all over the place. Today, President Buhari approved about $10 million. We bought the aircraft, we trained our pilots, and we're doing it ourselves. It's in Zaria.
Yes.
So these are things that passengers don't see and don't know. So that landing equipment has to work well for you to be able to land safely in Lagos or Kaduna.
And it helps that you're a pilot as well, trained pilot, trained aviation maintenance engineer. Let's talk a bit about certification. You were able to achieve 2 major certifications in 2017. In April for the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, and in November of 2017 for the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, especially the Abuja Airport. That certification was described as a milestone. Why?
Okay, here's why. And so that we also earn the credit that we deserve.
Yes.
Since amalgamation of Nigeria in 1914, government in, government out had tried to certify our airports according to ICAO standards by the regulator. No government was able to certify any single airport.
Why not?
And the Buhari administration came and will certify Abuja and Lagos. Why not? Because they have not put in their energy and focus and dedication and to do it. And we came as serious-minded people and we did it. We are now on our way to certifying Kano, Port Harcourt, and Enugu, and we will achieve it before the end of this administration. And that is the first time any government in the history of Nigeria from amalgamation in 1914 that did it. So Buhari did it.
What is the advantage of certification?
Well, the advantage is to ensure that everything in that airport is working well in accordance with International Civil Aviation Organization standards and practices, and that speaks to safety, efficiency, security, comfort, and facilitation of passenger. Everything to do with the airport is according to the standards. And so we have won a lot of awards in this administration in our airports. Abuja won award, Lagos won award. All these awards are coming because they will come, they will check and see that those things that ought to be there in an airport are actually there. And this is the only time that Nigerian airports are being given these awards from International Civil Aviation Organizations and so on.
This is interesting, the point you make. So all those years when we were having multiple plane crashes and people thought it was witches and all those sort of things, we didn't have this certification?
No, we didn't have certification. And then so also safety of transportation, especially by air. It's a combination of so many and several factors that come together to ensure safety. It starts, like I said, with the human being himself, the aviator. How well trained is he? How proficient is he? How knowledgeable is he? What is the experience that he has?
Yes.
This must be ensured, and that's the work that NCA had been doing since we came, to ensure that if you have a license to be an engineer or a license to be a pilot, you are actually exercising the privilege of that license in accordance with the provision of the ICAO organization within our Nigerian civil aviation regulations and within our own set rules and regulations to ensure that you are perfect in perfect order. You're not mentally deranged.
Yes.
You are physically fit. You are knowledgeable enough. You're also proficient enough. You're well trained to be able to carry out the functions of that license.
So, there's
So
no
that speaks to safety. That is number
Yes.
one. Number two, the equipment that you're flying also needs to be airworthy. So the airplane itself, someone needs to check it to ensure that that airplane is airworthy, that it can go into the air and come back safely. Someone also needs to check that the weather, for example, the weather that you're given,
Yes.
the focus that you're given, is actually correct and accurate, and you can use it. I give you example. Some of the things that NIMET is doing, which the passenger don't see. The cause for the Sosoliso crash
Yes.
was identified to be a condition that is called wind shear. You know, when you shear something, when you tear something,
Yes.
that's exactly what happens to the air. It gets torn apart. It changes direction suddenly and speed and suddenly. So if the air is going like this,
Yes, and
so half of
suddenly
it,
changes.
half of it maybe comes this way
Yeah.
and half goes this way, and suddenly and with such speed. So when it happens at low altitude, because the airplane is riding in air, it loses control and hit the ground at low altitudes. So there's an equipment known as low-level wind shear alert system. They weren't there in our airports, but this government of President Buhari installed them in about 15 airports in the country, and will install them in all the airports before we leave. And another agency like the AIB, whose function is to be able to do post-mortem of an accident so that they can come out with recommendations of what to do to prevent future occurrence.
Coming in through the Abuja airport today, I noticed the NIMET office for pilots right there at the Abuja airport. I've never noticed it before. That's a new thing as well.
It's a new thing. It's a briefing office. You know, the pilots can walk in there and get briefings. You know, briefing about the weather. I want to travel to Calabar. I should be able to get briefings.
Yes.
But we're even going a step beyond that.
Yes.
We're developing apps. You know, NIMET NASA has an app that you can just download on your phone and see, okay, and get the briefing that you need for the flight. We're also having an app by NAMA, Airspace Management Agency.
Yes.
You know, to have all this your flight planning done, you know, automated on your phone, and you file it and you get approved, you know, on your phone. You
That's
don't need
the
to.
pilots. Flight plan.
Yeah. Before, you have to put it on a form and climb onto the tower and give them and come down
hand, yes.
by hand and go to pay at the commercial section, pay and get the receipt and come back before your flight is approved. Now it's being automated. In about a month or two,
Yes.
all that will be on your phone. So you can plan your flight on your phone from your office or in your cockpit, send it, get it approved, do the payment online, and you're good to go.
Join us again after the break. When we know now that people were forcefully retired, you know, the airline was liquidated, assets were sold, why then are we trying to have a new national airline?
So we're trying to have a new national airline different from the other one. The other one was a government enterprise. So the government that established it like a bus service. So government decided to do that at that time. Why? Because one of the importance of civil aviation, air transportation, to the economy of Nigeria. Because we are 200 million people at the center of Africa, equidistant from all location.
Yes.
And more because In the past, there has not been any successful airline out of Nigeria that is providing this service. 95% of all international airlines that are operating within Nigeria are non-Africans. Not even non-Nigerian, they are non-Africans. And we have the market. So why do we allow somebody to come and take our market, take our employment? So government is trying to set up this airline, which is private sector, for Nigerian private entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Maybe with some foreign, also international partners, to set up a robust Nigerian airline that will be able to provide the service. Today, 2 months ago or so, I went to London. The first class ticket from Abuja to London is 6 million naira. Does it make sense? Business class is 4,500,000. Does it make sense? Why should a British Airways be making this money? Who is British Airways? Is a former government-owned airline that was privatized into private hands. So why should a private citizen of the UK enjoy the 6 million per ticket out of Nigeria? Why not a Nigerian?
Yes.
So we thought that we should set up an airline in the correct way to be able to also partake in this business. One, to provide the service, perhaps better service. Be jealous of our country and give us the best of service. The airplanes that are coming from some of these airlines, without mentioning names,
Yes.
they are not the best that they're giving us.
Yes.
But they're taking the best of money out of us. So why shouldn't we create something? And we can do it. Nigerians are very knowledgeable. Nigerians are very enterprising.
Yes.
Nigerians knows what it takes to do it. It's only the will. So we are providing the political will and the support and the sovereign shoulder for this airline to lean upon and begin to provide air transport service of today. There's a difference between Nigeria Airways and Nigeria Air. Nigeria Air is a private sector led and driven airline.
And it's not just going to be private sector on paper.
The Buhari administration focus is to make contribution to GDP of Nigeria, which is 450 billion. We want to get away from the 0.4 that we met percent GDP contribution to 5%, and we can do it because within the first 2 years we took it from 0.4 to 0.6, and we're on our going when COVID came. And the way to do it is to establish this airline, to have the maintenance, repair and overhaul center, to have the leasing company, to concession the airport, do all this. And furthermore, President Buhari has approved that our airports are now free zones that attracts foreign investment, that increased GDP contribution. That speaks volumes. And you need a feeder airline for the MRO, the maintenance center, and the maintenance center needs the airline. And you need the airline also for the airports that were built. And for the second run we are doing Abuja, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So our roadmap is working very well, madam.
Is it still feasible? The plan was April 2022 for the new airline.
Well, so now the focus is that we are going to have this airline. The focus changed.
Yes.
When we said April, we thought that perhaps we would do the bid, whoever wins comes to establish. But that, I think we found out that, well, it's not the correct way to do it, because in that case, anybody can just go and do it. So we changed the focus. The focus now is to set up the airline first, get the AOC, Air Operator Certificate, get the ATL, Air Transport License, get everything in place, set up the airline, let it start to fly with its own aircraft and pilots and so on, and see how it's set up. Then we now invite the investors to come, both within and outside the country. So it's running parallel. And because of that, we hope that by 1st of July, we should be able to get this airline off the ground, flying domestically within Nigeria, with few aircraft, and then we keep to add on to the fleet,
Yes.
and up to a time when we will now get the investor, and then later we commence international operations. So that's why, because of the change of focus, and which is for good cause, we now also had to tweak the time for the start of the airline.
The timing. The Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative, I was reading them and they were saying setting up a national carrier with 3 wet-leased aircraft is undeserving for Nigeria.
It's impossible in an aviation industry, aviation business, airline business especially, where the profit margin has been proven to be 5% or below when you do it right, for you to borrow from a Nigerian business, from a Nigerian bank, from a Nigerian entrepreneur, to borrow at 23% and make money. And the kind of equipment that you go to lease,
Yes.
before, people will lease 18-year-old aircraft, 19-year-old, 20-year. In the past, even 25-year, 30-year-old airplanes.
Bottom of the barrel.
And those of them, those aircraft, madam, they are so inefficient to operate. They're so archaic. They burn more fuel. Some of them burn 4 times more fuel than the newer jets. They are not friendly environment-wise.
Yes.
And you bring them and you want to compete with airlines. If you are doing international airline, if you are a Hadi Sirik airline from Nigeria, and you go to lease a 777, and you put it 2 or 3 of them on London route, or on Qatar route, or on Dubai route, or even on Ethiopia route, you want to compete with an Ethiopian airline that's an A350, a brand new one that is just 3 or 2 years old, with their own airliner that is 19 years old, that's burning 4 times more fuel, fuel being 40% of your operational cost. How are you going to compete? How? So these are some of the reasons and some of the issues that these airlines do have. They don't have access to capital, there's lack of governance, and all of them, without exception, they are one-man show. It's a money bag who feels, okay, 117 passengers times 30,000 to Kano equals this big money. And these airplanes can be leased at $1 million, he has it. He leases them, he brings them in, he does it. By the time he goes for one C check, and all the money gets pumped, then he says, oh my God, wait a minute. Then he makes a rethink.
Yeah.
So this lack of governance, this one-man show running of airline, this lack of understanding of the dynamics of airline business by these operators, and their unwillingness to come together and form a very strong, vibrant, new, state-of-the-art, high-tech airline, to also have access to capital through a leasing arrangement
Yes.
that we are setting up as a government, is part of the problems that is bringing this down these airlines, where cousins and uncles and in-laws are owners and operators of the airline, where tickets can be given for free and so on. Okay? So these are the issues, madam, where an entrepreneur will get up. And don't get me wrong,
Yes.
since I came minister, I had not refused one single airline to bring in an aircraft or a route that they want to go to. All of them applied. I've given them Dubai route, I've given them London route, I've given them Guangzhou route, I've given them Beijing route, I've given them India, and everywhere. I've given them 78 to 80 countries to go. Are they going? Those that have started going, how many people were left and abandoned in London? How many people were left and abandoned
So
in
it's easy to apply for these routes, but
and they get them and to operate them because they are not operating these airlines according to the dynamics of the industry. They don't, most of them don't have what it takes to do so. Today, if there's a proper airline out of Nigeria going to Europe, British Airways will bring down their cost. Because when I was a member of House of Reps, I was the deputy chairman for the House Committee. And as a professional, they asked me to chair a committee to investigate why is it that the ticket from Abuja to London, which is shorter
Yes.
than Accra to London, why is it that the business class is half the price from Accra to London than it is from Abuja to London? And I summoned British Airways. The guy came in charge of Africa. He said, well, the only reason is because Nigerians can afford.
Because they can afford.
Yeah. And that's why he's giving us. So, okay, thank you very much. Now this is the Nigerian option. If we do it right, because Nigerians can afford, then we'll put the price right. And we'll force them to come down with the price also. And that Nigerians will benefit.
Would you advocate for some of these airlines in the absence of proper capacity? Do you think they should merge?
I think they should. More than merge, they should now come and own this airline that we're trying to set up. They should come and own this airline that we're trying to set up because it's meant for them, private sector. But you know, the ego thing is there.
Yes.
How is a chairman CEO of airline A, who is the chairman CEO, wherever he goes, he appears on television, he comes, he grandstand. How can he now be reduced to owning 5% of an airline and he lose the fame and the name? So he wants to remain 100% of nothing than to be owner of 5% of everything.
Yes, 100% of nothing.
Yeah.
So two major challenges that still exist: foreign exchange access, with rumors we've heard recently that some airlines now want to be paid in dollars, and of course importation of Jet A1 fuel. And I'm also relating that to problems with kerosene shortage. Some people say aviation fuel is similar to kerosene.
Well, so regarding those two questions, Madam, when we came in, there was about $600 million of funds locked up in Nigeria.
Belonging to the airlines.
Yep. And at the time when Nigeria was in a recession, also at a time when we had to pay that 75 billion to workers,
Yes.
at the time when the oil prices were plummeting, I wrote him a simple memo for him to approve that the money be paid. And he approved. And within 2 years, all those monies were paid. And more than 50% of them were for African airlines, especially Ethiopian. And we paid all. And now they're beginning to pile up because of the central bank's policy. I just written a memo now again to Mr. President to please direct CBN to allow this airline to repatriate their money. Because if a Nigerian airline also goes to their country, he has to also get his money back.
Yes.
And then as per the shortage of Jet A1 and causing the price of kerosene to go up, yeah, they're similar, yes, in terms of how they are being distilled in we don't refine Jet A1 in Nigeria, unfortunately. Since we came, NNPC said they could do it.
Yes.
They even made me to make a promise that they would do it in 12 months. They haven't done it. As to why they are not importing, I don't know. But we pushed. The central bank is all access of foreign exchange by the majors who are importing these Jet A1s, and also by NNPC itself. NNPC and these majors ought to be given the funds, i.e. the foreign exchange, to be able to bring in this product for us to go. And the centrality of civil aviation in the dynamics of the economy of the country is very important. If you want to know how important an airline can be, or how civil aviation can be important, think about UAE, think about Dubai,
Yes.
and take out the airline Emirates and take out the airports, and see what Dubai becomes.
Nothing.
Nobody will go to a 350,000 people country like Qatar, if not because of the airline. That have been forgotten in the long corner of
Yes.
the Hijaz area.
Or Abu Dhabi with Etihad.
So civil aviation is very core, or is very central to every single economy. It's actually the backbone. Many countries have, Ethiopia, even during the war, they didn't allow the airlines to die. Would you go to Addis without the airline? You won't bother yourself to enter Rwandan Air or Kenya Air and then connect and go, unless if it is very, very, pardon me, unless it is something very, very urgent and very pressing for you to go. Or you just want to go and see how the Abyssinians used to be, from the Bible and the Quran.
COVID-19, I can't talk with you without mentioning that. Obviously, you had all these plans, everything was moving seamlessly since 2015, and then COVID happened in 2019. Rationalize for us the effects COVID had. How did it slow down further improvement in the aviation sector?
Well, it did in many ways. First and foremost, the entire sector was shut down. But the airports remained opened for medical supplies, and for obvious reasons that you cannot shut them down, because restarting them will now cost you a lot of money.
Right.
So all of the income that we had before, the little left after salaries and so on, were put in to sustain and maintain these airports for emergencies, because there can be an airport in transit has an emergency and needs to land in Kano. So you need to open it up. So this drained us out, drained the industry really, really bad. We are finding it very difficult up to now to pay salaries in our agencies. entrepreneurs suffered lots of losses. Imagine you're a catering company and you've signed with a firm to be supplying you chicken, and you paid for the money for a period, or you contracted something out, and suddenly there's no business. Who suffers? You. You're not making any income. You have staff. You cannot lay them off. You have to keep them. Some at half salary and so on, struggle. So it really impacted and slowed down our progress. You see, unfortunately, the reason why, fortunately, the reason why we've changed our focus under Buhari to make sure that aviation is private sector led and driven is because government cannot continue to fund civil aviation. Okay? If I go to council to debate, to get something approved, I'll be debating against cholera, which is healthcare. I'll be debating against illiteracy, which is education. I'll be debating against water supply, which you need. Like Fela said, in Broken, water no get enemy.
Yes.
So if I am debating, looking for money for an airport, or looking for money for one equipment or another, somebody is coming looking for medicines, or the Ministry for Humanitarian Affairs, there's a flood somewhere, they're looking for money. Who gets priority? Them, not me, certainly. So since I am not a priority, I am a priority because the emergency guy, humanitarian ministry, cannot take those blankets quickly to Birni Kebbi without me, a veto.
Yes.
He cannot supply that drugs to Maiduguri without me,
Yes.
if there's cholera. If there's Ebola in Lagos, he cannot supply those without me. But I don't take that significance because they don't see it. Okay? So I find it difficult to get funded. I think President Buhari, given the scenario and the dynamics, he done very well to support civil aviation. Since we know they cannot continue, and they cannot continue to be Buhari, we pray that the person who's coming will be better than Buhari.
Yes.
And better than him, and then better than him for the country. But for now, for me, he's the best. So since we know we cannot continue to have good Buharis, so we have to take it into private sector where we can access funds for services in civil aviation. So doing that had ensured that we're putting it back to people, back to entrepreneurs. And that's why you're seeing now the airlines have been doubled, the passengers have been doubled and tripled and so on, and the airports and what have you. So people are now participating more and more in civil aviation. And the funding is coming from private sector in most cases. So all our programs and objectives are now private sector led and driven. And in that way, we're getting a sector that we deserve as a country. Coming to those specifics of how, as a government...
How did you come back from all that COVID?
Yeah, so what we did was that we ensured, one, that we've reduced and encouraged the entrepreneurs. We give them rebate, some we written off their debts, some we give them 50%, some we reschedule their debts, for them to come back. For example, if you had to pay us maybe electricity, we like ask you to pay maybe 10% of it, or we put it on hold for you for 6 months until when you come back. So like that, we brought back businesses slowly and gradually. And up to now, we're giving concessions, we're written off some of the debts, for the entrepreneurs that are within the civil aviation, And government also gave some money to us. In the first instance, 5 billion naira was given to us, which we now didn't use for ourselves as FAN, NAMA, NCA, NAMA. No, we gave it to entrepreneurs in civil aviation like taxi companies, like catering companies, like food vendors, and like that, and ground handling, and airlines, and so on and so forth. So we brought a template and got them under their associations to sit down and give us a recommendation of how the money will be spent, and we gave it to them. So I think that is helping, and we begin to see a good comeback into the industry.
Would it be lack of funding, for instance, that makes it possible sometimes when you land at the airport, the air conditioner isn't working, or the toilet?
No, I think on that one is serial neglect over time. Let me give you the scenario or the story of Lagos Airport, which I am very popular in giving this story. People are tired of hearing me like a broken gramophone. You see, Lagos International Airport was built around 1979.
Yes.
And it was intended for 2 million passengers per annum, but ended up only building wing D and E, and then can support just about 200,000 passengers per annum at the time. 200,000 passengers per annum. Today, Lagos is doing like 12 million passengers per annum. Okay? So imagine this, my office was meant to be for me as minister, with my one toilet, and my one conference center, and my one office.
Yes.
Then they bring 16 ministers
And say share.
and say we should share this same office. 16 of us will be using this one toilet and one chair. That is the story of Lagos. Built for 200,000, today it's doing 12 million. And nothing was added to it. So it dilapidated beyond repairs. So what we did, we accelerated completion of the new Lagos, and they migrate, and we're concessioning the airport, and private sector will come and put in their money, to do it all over again. And don't forget, as bad as it is, it's not that government is not doing anything. So many things that are security and safety critical within the money that we're making out of fund and within the budget that we're getting are being injected into Lagos. And there's only so much that we can do.
Yes.
What is more pressing to prevent a fire occurrence within the terminal building or to do the air conditioning? Sometimes it's a choice. Okay? And nobody knows what you're doing to prevent.
Yeah.
When I came in as ministers, all of the exit points were under lock and key. So if there's any fire, there's no escape route. Because of so many reasons. Because they failed. So we have to open them up. We have to check the firefighting systems in the building. We have to rehabilitate them. We have to do so many things to ensure safety. We have to ensure that there's no fire. If you go in the basement of Lagos Airport and you see the amount of naked wares at the time with water dripping all over the place, it's a tremendous amount of money that was put in there to take care of all this. And passengers don't know. And the air conditioning central system, which used to give the cooling effect,
Yes.
because then the passengers were not many. The system was also working, so there's air conditioning. Now there are too many passengers, and the central system has failed, and you see that we put all these wall units all over the place, trying to see whether we can provide some cooling effect. Because of the number of passengers. Imagine this room, maybe meant for 6 of us, and you now jam-packed 500 of us. No matter
It won't be effective anymore.
won't be effective anymore. So that's why we think that the best way is to concession the airport. Strip it down, open it up by private sector, put it into a new edifice, and Lagos is one floor. Even against international convention, you need to have arrival and departure, up and down. So we have a huge design for Lagos. At the time when we came in, Julius Berger had asked for about 14 billion to be able to give some palliatives to the airport,
Yes.
to get the cooling system, to get all of this. But of course, lack of funding and so on. So we decided that, look, the best way is to go into concession, and luckily there's huge interest for Lagos because of the money that it will do, and we get to do it. So people should bear us. We can't score 100% everywhere,
Yes.
but we'll just try and do the best that we can to ensure. But at least we are giving them a brand new terminal building, which is I think 10 times more the capacity that we have now.
10 times more the capacity. What about the second Abuja runway?
So Mr. President has approved the second Abuja runway. He's going to provide special funding for that. And he's a master in doing those things. When I got up and I saw the safety implication of the then Abuja runway,
Yes.
and I told Mr. President that we must, as a matter of safety and urgency, shut down the airport and build or reconstruct the runway, because airlines were landing and breaking their wheels and so on and so forth.
Yes.
He approved. And he told me, look, go and plan very well. I said, yes, sir. And that's all he said, and gave the money. And within 6 weeks, The entire country said it's not possible. Nigerian Society of Engineers made a protest to the National Assembly, say it's not possible. The National Assembly said it's not possible. I spoke for 17 hours in National Assembly in defense, over 3 days. Everybody said it was impossible. But God on our side, we made it possible. We delivered the project. They looked at the logistical nightmare at the time. You know, embassies and the ambassadors and the high commissioners were saying it's impossible, you cannot shut down the city, safety is not guaranteed, you can't move it to Kaduna. We moved to Kaduna for those 6 weeks. Everybody there, we were trucking them through buses, we were busing people to Kaduna and back, and we were having like 9-10 rotations per day. And for those 217 kilometers, we were going and coming back. There was not a single incident. There's no, we use road safety people, we use police, we use SSS, we use army, the Air Force, the police. Everybody was putting hands on deck. And the people of the ministry, the FAN, the contractor, Julius Berger, and we had a time, and we were able to beat the time with 1 day. So we made it a day before. It was total reconstruction and rehabilitation.